Welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show, an hour-long podcast dedicated to all things Mexican football. Brought to you by Foot Mex Nation. All right, welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. I am Wiesel from Foot Mex Nation. Like the intro said, this is an hour-long podcast dedicated to all things Mexican football, the Mexican national team, Liga Mx, Europeos, Mexicans abroad, anything with football and Mexican related, we will talk about it. Even those obscure leagues, beach soccer, I mean, anything here we can talk about. All right, guys. Going to be a great show. We'll be talking all about Mexico and the U.S. coming up. Are we ready? We just saw Mexico in Chicago. We saw Mexico in Nashville. Is Mexico ready to face the United States in cold Columbus? The 2-0 has haunted the players, this FMF, and some of the fans, actually. But first, before we get into that, we'll also talk about Liga Mx, maybe some Europeos talk. Liguillas coming up. Let's say hi to who's with us. Mr. Tom Marshall in Guadalajara. How's it going, Tom?
Good, Weasel, yeah. Still the rainy season. It's been going on for about 6 months now, so a bit sick of that. But apart from that, all good.
All right, good. Going to Mr. Johnny Rico. Johnny in San Diego, Tijuana. Johnny, how are you?
What is this rain phenomenon that Tom speaks of? I have no idea.
It's a drought in California. For the last
You're looking. Mr. Rico.
I'm looking so good, he's speechless.
I had Mr. Jason, our only guest in the East Coast, late for him. I think 10 o'clock, right? 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. Yeah. Jason, how's it going, sir?
It's going well. I have nothing to say about the weather, but I'm excited to talk about the soccer.
Perfect. There it is. All right, guys. Well, let's get right into it. If you are not following us right now on the chat, we have Miss Giovanna Sanchez, definitely one of our fellow followers, as always tweeting, always saying hi to her. MB23, Jose Munoz, already on the chat saying, sweet, Tom is here. And Jose's getting right into it, saying Chivas isn't a good team. They've beaten one team, that's Liguilla America, who was a bad team. So already starting, Mr. Tom Harrison.
I don't know. I have mixed feelings about this Jose character.
I know already, right? Mr. Tom Harrison. He's also part of the Foot Mex Nation family. Great writer, and is also coaching here in the United States. So he has a great article talk. Tactics with Tom. Let's get started before we run out of time already. Let's go ahead and get right into it with the Mexican national team played in Chicago to around 19,000 people, a little bit over, where Mexico was able to pull out a win for another yet very dull performance, as many people have said. I was at the game trying to really look for something in the first half. It looks like Osorio's teams cannot play a full 90 minutes. But at least the result was there. Let's go ahead and get into it and talk to Mr. Tom Marshall, who was also there with me in Chicago. Tom, just your reaction from these two games, mostly obviously the Chicago. We did talk in Chicago about what happened in Nashville, but I got done talking with you where he was experimenting, obviously, the rotaciones. The question in the press after the game was, is Mexico ready? Tom?
Yeah, I think Mexico ready. I think it's the need this game against the States. I think, I'm going to be positive. I think that Osorio said, and he has said, this is a huge opportunity. And I think the base of the players, the regulars, are going to see it that way. So, I think what we could is like the Chicago Nashville games against New Zealand and Panama, we just put them to one side. I mean, honestly, don't read too much into them. I mean, this was an experimental games for Osorio. It's not like this is going to be the team that starts against the States. You can take positives. Giovanni Dos Santos is back. He's a member of the squad now. Oribe Peralta, I thought, showed once again that he's got something to give. Ayala, he'll be in the mix as well.
Now, You say we can brush these games aside because it was an experiment. So should we brush off aside the entire year? Because the entire year has been an experiment.
No, I wouldn't say it's been the entire year. It's been an experiment. I mean, Osorio's obviously looking for his team, but it's not. I don't think the team's that that difficult to find. I think he's looking further down the line. But looking ahead to the US game, I think it's an opportunity. I don't think that he's going to pick a crazy team. It's going to be a pretty standard team that he picks against the States. And I think this base of players is desperate for a result, and why not? Why can't Mexico go up there with the talent in the squad that they've got and get a result against the States? I don't see any reason why Mexico can't go up there and do it.
No, definitely. We were talking before, and it looks like Osorio's not there to get the results right away. He has a game plan. I don't know what that game plan is, but fine-tuning certain players, certain formations to see how they would work out. I understand that. I know we have obviously the opportunity to play more games in most countries, so why not take advantage of different rotations, different lineups? But when are we going to see that starting 11 tour that I at least wanted to see that in Chicago, but the players weren't there. Now comes the US, and there are no more practices. There are no more scrimmages where I thought I would at least like to see Mexico with going ready to go to playing with the players that they had. But I guess that's just my opinion. Jason, to you, more rotations, more experiments. How are you seeing Mexico ready for what's coming up with the hardest part of the qualifying, which is the hexagonal that's starting in November?
I mean, as ready as they could be considering the injuries and just the players that weren't able to make it into these last two friendlies. But I mean, I guess the benefit and the positives that are there are clearly that you have those players that were on the fringe that you can now include back into that main fold. Like Gio, who's back in there and certainly proved in those games that he is worthy of a place in the national team. You'd expect him to be in Columbus and maybe not in the starting 11, but he's going to be there. And Marco Fabian, with everything he's been doing in Germany, and including him into that roster makes a lot of sense because he's another player who understands what Osorio's looking for. Johnny loves it, and it makes sense because he has the experience and he can fit into that roster. So expanding that roster, I mean, as ready as they could be, I think. I mean, I think everyone that starting 11 that Osorio is going to use, whatever it might be, all of those players are going to know what to expect from him, at least, I think.
I go to Johnny. Johnny, obviously you've been a very, you critique. Actually, we all have Osorio, but you've gone a little further than critique, almost like hate, in the fact that we have a coach that he still hasn't given us, a quality win with a quality lineup and a quality formation, according to you, Johnny. For you, is it failure to here? You've been saying that he should be fired, should be gone. To you, how are they measuring up, and can they win in Columbus?
Just to be clear, I don't hate any one person. I never hate people. I hate Chivas. I hate the Raiders. I hate the U.S. men's national team, but never hate a person. But I do hate the fact that Osorio does have the job of Mexican national team manager. I do hate that because it's clear that. To me, it's clear that he has no clue what he's doing. No goalkeeper has played back-to-back games for Mexico, and we're over a year with him as manager. No goal. That's how much he changes his lineup. That's how much he doesn't know what he's doing.
Goalkeeper repeated in one game after the other.
For example, Copa America, Ochoa played 2 games.
Trying to figure out. That's a good stat, Johnny.
Yes, he's rotated so much. Not one keeper has gone back-to-back games. So that shows that he has no idea what he's doing. He's still trying to figure things out. And I think that by now he should already have figured some things out, which we're definitely not seeing on the pitch. I hope that seeing on the field is not what he's asking of the players, because that'd be pretty bad.
What about the U.S. question, Johnny? After you've seen and what's happening, is it all doomed for Mexico when it coming in Columbus, according to you?
I have not been too impressed with how the U.S. has played, and that, I mean, Mexico has talented players, so Mexico does have a chance, but Juan Carlos Osorio will definitely not make it easier for Mexico to win.
Well, there you go, Johnny. And I think a lot of people, and I'm not just picking on Johnny and his views, a lot of people view, I mean, I would think over a majority of the people are upset in the way that this team is playing. We're trying to see this magnificent, scheme or experiment that, Osorio is going to come out and just go, poof, this is what I was wanting to do. But it's hard when the 7-0 versus Chile, aside from that, Tom, 1 year since Juan Carlos Osorio were approaching that, or did it already happen? I think it's around this. It's coming up, and it's still the only loss is that giant loss of 7-0 against Chile. And I know there's a lot of people that are at least asking him about how his 1 year has been or how we see it. One of the things that came up in the press conference was he's not there to make nice with the press or even win games. I feel like he's not even there to win those friendlies, but to make sure his players have that confidence for them to do what he wants, and that's Russia. That's where he wants them to do.
What Johnny's saying there is like a lot of Mexico fans are thinking, and it's justified. It's his point of view, but he's also like completely not understanding Osorio and what he's saying and what he's thinking. Like, I can't disagree with Johnny that what we've seen on the pitch isn't great. I mean, you know what I mean? It's not great, but at the same time, if you want to develop a national team to reach its potential, I think you have to take a step back and listen to Osorio and look what he's done. And he knows the game. He knows exactly what he's doing. I completely disagree with Johnny about he doesn't know what he's doing. He is kind of on the fringes. Some of his ideas are on the fringes of world football. Most people would say swapping your goalkeeper around all the time is a bit strange. Even for me, I think I agree. It is strange, but Osorio's that's what he's always done. He's always been like this. The federation has obviously picked him out and backed him, and they must have known about this. And I think, therefore, we have to give him time. We have to give him time to show what he can do. And one of the biggest thing, you give him until the next World Cup. I mean, simple as that. And
that's what we don't have the patience to do, though, Tom. I mean, the FMF. It would be great to have that, but when you're saying
Mexico,
on the fringe of things,
going to the World Cup. Mexico is going to the World Cup. I mean, it's got to be absolutely disastrous when you've got 3.5 places for CONCACAF.
It has happened before that we are almost not going.
Almost, yeah.
In fact,
Mexico's going.
The last three qualifiers we almost didn't make, except for the La Volpe, but 2002, 2009, 2013. I mean, we always say it's tough. It's tough, and I think we'll be there, of course. But I
mean, right? Bolillo, the Panama manager, the other day, you were like, he's like, when's this going to end with Mexico? When they're going to have a process? When they're going to complete it? And it's like you have to back the manager at some point. And it's like it's no good complaining about friendlies in Nashville and Chicago against that quality opposition. It's meaningless, completely meaningless in terms of what happens almost on the pitch. I mean, Osorio's he's looking at other things that I think most people in Mexico aren't looking at, and he's making those conclusions depending. It's different criteria than what everyone else is. I mean, you can say he's maybe aloof and he's a bit of a professor and all that, but I don't know. It's just a scrimmage. Those games are just completely scrimmages.
Tom's a believer. I'm gonna say that.
No, don't get me wrong. I don't expect Mexico to quote beautiful soccer, because beautiful soccer is subjective, and everybody has their own definition of what beautiful soccer is. I want to see a Mexico team clear idea of what the game plan is, and I want to see the players executing that game plan. Right now, there is no evidence of a game plan. There's evidence of Osorio picking 11 random people and throwing them onto a soccer field.
Well, I think it's because we haven't seen those players that are going to. That's what I was asking. I would love a game where okay, this is the direction Osorio is going to do. I think he came out with a 3-3-3-1 in one game and then 4-3-3 in the other, and I want to see what's going to happen. Maybe he's keeping it secret so the U.S. So Klinsmann. If I was Klinsmann right now, I'd be like, "What the heck is Osorio gonna do? How am I gonna do? I don't know what he's gonna come out. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's his huge strategy to be all over the place that they don't know how we're gonna play.
But
hopefully, I'm trying to find something.
You'd think that already having played an official competition like a Copa America, we have an idea of what the best Mexican starting 11 looks like, and we don't. So that means he threw away Copa America. That means he used that as a big experiment, which that kind of pisses me off more than anything, because that was not a tournament thrown away.
The question now is that whether he learned from his mistakes in the Copa America, because I mean I think there's the clear that Osorio made some mistakes in the Copa America. The rotations that he made in Copa America, and I think the goalkeeper thing is a bit of a red herring that gets thrown out there. Is it's obvious change that happens every time, but these are goalkeepers that play all the time with the national team anyway and are used to these defenders, so I don't think it's a big deal. But there were clear mistakes made. I mean, Osorio was not so great in that Chile match. I mean, I think that's very, very clear. And I think there was a case to be made that he should be fired immediately after that game. But now that he is retained as the manager, moving into these friendlies, you can't take anything from these friendlies and say that, okay, this is now caused because we didn't see this revolution. And we don't really know if Osorio has a defined starting 11 that he wants to use going into important matches. Maybe he does, but he can't use them in these friendlies. So, I mean, he might have an idea that at least, this is how I want to approach playing the U.S. This is how I might want to approach the next team. But I would suspect that he has an idea of moving into these games, the team he wants to use at this point. And that is not necessarily what we saw in Chicago and Nashville, because the team was kind of a mess. And you're incorporating different players, and that's what those scrimmages are used for. But won't. The honest truth is we won't know until we get to a tournament. I mean, we know Osorio wants to change by the opponent and change his tactics by the opponent, but we don't know how he's going to approach that a major tournament until he gets there. I don't think.
Yeah, I just think the concept of a best 11, we all talk about, the media talks about, it doesn't mean anything with Osorio. It just doesn't have any meaning, because any best 11 depends on who you're playing. You know what I mean? But also, I kind of disagree with we don't know how Mexico are going to play. I think we know exactly how Mexico are going to play. Maybe the formation shifts, maybe the players shift, but you basically know how Mexico are going to play. They're going to play out from the back. They're going to try and play it through midfield, try and be quite vertical, attempt to play the ball to keep the ball in the opposition's half. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think we've seen it brilliantly implemented so far with Osorio, but we know how Mexico are going to play, and I think it's going to be the same against the States.
So why all this? Why all these 3-3-3-1? Why so many things differently though, Tom? It's like, if we know how they're going to play, why can't we keep that consistency in playing that way?
Because he's reacting to the way the other team's set up. So, for example, if a team plays with two strikers up front, the philosophy, and it's not just Osorio, there are other managers that do it, especially Bielsa, then you play three centre-backs. Why? Because you've always got a spare man at the back. If a team plays with one striker up front, you play with two centre-backs, so you've always got, you've also got a spare man. So, I don't know.
Why not a line of four? Two strikers, four defenders. Why not a line of four?
Because he's looking at the central position. I mean, he's not taking in consideration the fullbacks there.
Because the only consistency that has been in this Osorio's process is how bad the defense looks game after game after game, and the fact that only one team was able to take advantage of those spaces, of that, esas facilidades.
Listen,
just because there was one doesn't mean that this process is great, because no other team has been able to exploit it the way Chile did.
No one says it's great. And listen, what is it, of the games that Osorio's been in charge? I believe it's like 15 now. Only 3 have been against teams in the top 35. Only 3. I mean, And I know everybody's going to say, "Oh, that's even worse." That's even worse that Mexico hasn't been playing well and shown identity and been winning 5-0. But at the same time, I think the average percentage possession for Mexico in those games is like over 60. Mexico's had a lot of the ball against a lot of teams who just completely sit back. You know what I mean? I think it's been, and it's not easy. That's not you need to find a way to get around those teams. But I mean, it's difficult when you're playing against such poor opposition as well. To prepare. I mean,
and especially when the players don't come either. I was talking to Tom and we were driving after the game, or sometime I think it was after the game or before, and I asked him a question. I said, "Could you see Mexico, winning in Columbus?" And as far as Osorio, in his experiments, and we've seen bad, I could still see Mexico play well, and all of a sudden, get that result in Columbus. I haven't lost all faith in Osorio, even though I was a very big critic when he was hired. But he was hired regardless. We're here. I obviously the questions of him, how long is he gonna last? If these 2 games, but the players are coming out and saying that they're all for with Osorio. And one of the big surprises with Giovanni Dos Santos coming out and saying, not only was he given the captain, and that was a little weird, but saying how he backs the manager, the Colombia manager, Osorio. What is most important is how these players are reacting into all these changes, and what it looks like from the camp. Tom, and I'll ask you again. I mean, talking to players or from what following the team, how are the players feeling about this? I spoke to Sage on Friday night before the game, and one of the things that he said was he was a little worried now how these players are still not seeing, Osorios, or are still confused with Osorios. Do you see anything like that from what you read, from what you hear, especially with the players? So that's what the important part is, right? The players knowing and believing Osorio's system.
Yeah, and that's what Osorio said. He says the biggest thing that he takes from his year is that players still believe. And I mean, after that 7-0, if there was a time where the players were going to completely turn their back on him, then that was it. But for some reason, we're not kind of party to why. But obviously, it's what's gone on behind the scenes. Like, they obviously think he's a really good manager. And it's, Giovanni Dos Santos saying he was surprised at how good Osorio was. Fabian saying the same thing, Guardado after the...
I think Tom, we lose you? Still there?
To stick with him. Keep coming out well after that.
Pretty much, Tom, if you are hearing, I think we had some problems with the internet, so hopefully you can come back, and we'll keep going.
Just quickly.
Right. Tom, can you hear us? Dun, dun, dun. All right. I think he's still going.
I'm back. Yeah, but that's the trust with the players, or the apparent trust, is the reason I think Mexico got a really good chance in Columbus. I think the players are absolutely desperate to prove themselves.
All right. Tom's being a light for everyone right now, so we need that. We need that sometimes. It's not doom right now. So let's anything else with the Mexican national team, Johnny?
Yeah, I think there's a case to be made that a lot of Mexico's problems in Columbus have been mental in the past, where the team has not played its best and have succumbed to the pressure from playing the U.S. in Columbus. And I think there's something to be said for the fact that Mexico has gone through some trouble of lately.
So
and that they
now there's a,
go ahead, Johnny.
Now there's a mental problem and the football problem. Jesus.
I honestly think that the team has been better than the U.S. for many years now, and it should have performed better playing wherever they play. So I mean, I think going to Columbus and getting just shut down the way they have before, I think it's been a problem of performing. And I think that coming from a place where they've had a really rough summer. They've had to kind of rally around each other and step up, and they're not coming in as big favorites to this match. They're going to come in and just take care of this U.S. team. That they're coming in as kind of like in a little bit of an underdog situation. I think it could be good for the team.
Well, let's analyze those Columbus wins. I'm not saying it's a tough place to play, of course, with Mexico in the psychological game. But if you remember, let's just go to 2013. It was Stena who was coaching as an interim coach, because it just got fired and looking for the other coach. So it wasn't like we had a already, you know, then I just kind of did what was the last coach before that. So it wasn't like they prepared well. There were already some problems with some players. Before that, it was Chepo, right? It was Chepo with all the problems that he had. I think it was the U.S. game came about right when there was a lot of games that were played before that. So it's like I haven't seen Mexico. The only one, I guess, with the La Volpe years where everything was going fine, and they obviously lost in Columbus. But I haven't seen a Mexico well prepared, no coaching changes, no drama. It's not going to be as cold in November like it was
Never
in
going to see
February.
that.
So
Hey, tell you what, an interesting thing about the game in Columbus is that, and
dang it. Tom, I think you have that Chivas internet, is what someone said on the chat. Sorry, Tom. I don't see if you're gonna start over your router or anything else, and we'll come back. Jason, Johnny, the Columbus game, and I really wanted to hear what Tom was gonna say too, because he's like,
yeah, I'm intrigued. What is interesting?
What is so interesting about this? But yeah, no, as soon as he comes back, but it's true, right? This is gonna be not in the usual circumstances. This is the first game for Mexico, but we'll see how it goes on this one. So Jason, Johnny, anything else next national team? Tom, you back?
I think I'm back. Yeah.
Go ahead.
The mental side that Jason was talking about. Imanoli Barrondo has been hired, a Spanish kind of coaching, like, you know, mental coach, and he's going to be on board to kind of try and help the team with that.
This is sounding a lot like the tactics Mario Carrillo used to use. Bringing in Mario Carrillo used to bring in witch doctors to help the to help his clubs, you know, get over certain aspects of non-football related issues.
Pretty sure La Volpe is very superstitious.
The thing is, you have to, like, I don't think we talk about enough the fact that the major difference between club soccer and international soccer, and like the lack of time that these managers get tactically with these players to really work on it, going into game to game, what they're going to do, specifics versus this team. So it's a lot of like these players coming together, working together as a unit, and being in the right state of mind to work together as a unit. And I think there's a lot to be said for like the mental and preparatory kind of, that a lot of times is garbage on the club side, but I think there's a lot to be said in the national team for that kind of fluff stuff that might make a difference.
Oh, there we go. All right, guys, let's close off the Mexican national team. We'll see where we're at. Coming up soon, probably talk about the players probably next week that will be called up. That should be very interesting. A lot of people, with Jonathan Dos Santos, Alan Pulido, Marco Fabian, even Carlos Vela, that hopefully, you know, if he's playing well or he's called up, we'll see. Interesting trivia. Let's see. Has Carlos Vela ever lost against the U.S.? Someone on the chat could kind of look that up, because I know I was trying to look at least Giovanni. Giovanni was there in I think 2009, and he was there in that loss. But yeah, so we'll see how it goes. Let's go over to our Europeos before we go into Liga MX, so we can finish out the show with Liga MX and talk about that really quick. Who's not having a heck of a time? Mitch Ochoa. Ochoa, again, el arquero más goleado. For those of you that don't know Spanish and listening to us, he's there's a lot of memes. Ochoa's not having the greatest time in Spain. I can't believe people are faulting him with that horrendous defense. But is it time for Ochoa to come back to Mexico? That's the question I ask you guys. Who's wildly adventurous to answer it?
It's always time for Ochoa to come back to America.
To Mexico, John.
Never a wrong moment.
Mexico.
Never a wrong moment for Ochoa to come back to Club de Fútbol América.
Tom?
I mean, you know, if he's going to play for Granada, then he might as well play for America. I mean, he's been there, he's tried it in Europe. You know, it's like, if Granada is, then he's going to take a step up somewhere, then nice one, but I think he's been to Europe. We always say on the show, like, it's good for these players to get out of the comfort zone, but, you know, he's done it. He's not been very successful, let's be honest.
Yeah.
You know, Ajaxio's a minnow. Like then you go to Malaga and you're on the bench, and now you're at Granada and you're getting 7 goals. Again, 7 goals. So it's not great for Ochoa.
Jason.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all. I mean, I don't think he needs to do anything. I don't think, like, as Mexico supporters, it really matters. Like, he could be there. He could be back with Mexico. I think he is the player he is at this point. So it's all in what he wants. I mean, he's in a rough situation now, but he's going to get a lot of work. That's for sure.
I tell you what, though, from a confidence point of view, it can't be good. I mean, he was in goal. He was the goalkeeper for the Chile game, and he's there, and he's just like in net, and the goals are flying in every week. It's like when you do look ahead to that US game, and we mentioned the mental aspect. Where's Ochoa at right now?
Yeah.
I mean, is he? I mean, really?
And what we've seen Ochoa not give the greatest confidence to his coaches, because there's a lot of times where Ochoa, coaches just don't find him to be that number one keeper. We've seen it time and time again, and we'll see where if Osorio comes in. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if let's say Chuy gets the spot in Columbus.
I think Talavera. And I say that because I think when Osorio's mentioned the teams that are more direct, more like kind of long ballish.
Who did he play against?
Talavera. Talavera.
Was it Talavera against Uruguay?
I believe so.
Ochoa played against. He played against Jamaica.
Yeah,
Jamaica.
Okay.
Corona played against Venezuela.
That's right.
So,
but I think that's the reason. I think whenever Osorio sees a team that's good in the air, he likes Talavera.
And then Ochoa against Chile again. Like that's something that's crazy, because if at least I would see the rotation of Talavera. If you're looking at those 3 games, a must-win was against Uruguay. I'm gonna bring my best keeper. Boom, Talavera. But I know that he was saying that maybe because Talavera has a better game, up top and
it's definitely because of that. And against the States, I mean, he's already mentioned after the Panama game, it was like, the States are really good in the air, they're very direct. We've got to be really careful, we've got to be physically up for it. And he's mentioned, before that Talavera is a goalkeeper who could play in the Premier League. And it's because of that, because of his aerial game. So I think Talavera's, I don't know, I'd put money on Talavera starting against United States of America.
That gives Chuy Corona a big advantage as far as betting goes for the Panama game. If we go by stats and the logic the numbers brings,
we'll see.
It will say,
all right. Anything else in the Europeos? Marco Fabian leaving La Concentración a little early on Saturday or Sunday, not staying to the game for Tuesday. And going against play Bayern Munich, getting a goal. Yeah, I mean, with his chest, he's there. I think that's how many goals. I mean, great job for a kid that has had issues in the past and being consistent. And I know, Johnny, 4 goals in 3 games or whatever is not consistency, but for Fabian it is. But
great. I'm glad we're lowering the standards.
I'm not lowering the standards, but it's not like another player has gone in and scored.
Hey, it's against Bayern Munich. That is one of the best teams in the world.
How many Mexicans have scored against Neuer? I think actually Pardo did, if I can remember. But
assisted by Timmy Chandler too. It was all CONCACAF.
Yeah, it's all CONCACAF. I saw that.
Taking over.
Taking over, but good for him.
No,
the confidence where he was at, or the earlier Johnny, where he was at before.
On the rule book, the rule book might say that he was offside. So.
Okay, well, it was still a goal.
Yeah.
But Johnny, what is it going to take for you to go? Fabian is doing well in Europe. How many goals? How many goals, Johnny? How many goals?
There's no certain amount of goals. Just 3 straight months of consistent.
Okay, so he's got 1 month.
There we got it. There we go. We got it.
I got it written down. Okay,
write it down.
One month is done. We have 2 more months for Johnny to be happy.
After that, then he'd be worthy of a national team call-up.
Come on, look at who came.
Yes.
Meanwhile, we'll just keep. Meanwhile, Jesus Gallardo.
Yeah, Gallardo.
Because by this standard that we have lowered for Fabian, Necaxa's Ishihara should be getting a call up. He's had 3 good games. Why not?
Johnny. All right, so that's 1 month. We'll be talking about 3 consistent months because in Europe, which is kind of hard because I remember a lot of players actually have 3 consistent months, or players that is. All right, anybody else? Chicharito not getting the score, but obviously still involved in all the plays. It looks like the only attack. What's happening with Bayer Leverkusen? It looks like a totally different team. But hopefully he keeps on scoring. Anyone else? Salcedo.
Yeah.
Doing well.
Yeah. I mean, possibly putting himself in the frame for a start in Columbus. I mean, I think
so.
Yeah. Moreno, Salcedo attack.
Yeah, maybe if he plays 3 at the back, then with Reyes in there as well. I mean,
I give up. Reyes is done. Reyes is like my Fabian. Like I still have not seen Reyes do anything. But and I was just kind of thinking. I was trying to do a start 11. Is even Rafa Marquez? It's like, what is he going to be able to go? Or maybe that's been the problem. But good. Europeo's doing well. There's also it looks like somebody's been scoring, especially since the beginning of the season for an Europeo. So it's kind of good to see our guys out there in these teams. So good. All right, guys, let's go on and talk about Liga MX, which is getting exciting. It's getting exciting. It looks like, I'm happy to see that even though I'm not a Chivas fan, Chivas and Almeida turning things around. America and el Bicentenario is looking to be a great liguilla. I'm also very happy about León, and I tweeted out, I think we're back. Get ready for the change. Get ready for a campeonato. But exciting times in Liga MX, especially over the weekend. Tom, Jason, Johnny, let's start with Jason. Jason, if you could talk about a surprise for the weekend for you, or the most important news in Liga MX for those of you that didn't get a chance to watch, if they're busy watching MLB or football or whatever. What is the news happening right now? What's the biggest story right now in Liga MX?
Well, I honestly, I think the biggest surprise and the biggest story for me is Necaxa right now.
Yeah.
Just continuing the momentum that they've put forth. I mean, we saw this at the beginning of the season. We kind of had the idea that this team was going to fight off the relegation stronger than previous teams, and they would be a contender. But I mean, just the continuity, they're just keeping it going, and the style of play is really impressive. This weekend, I mean, going into El Volcán, getting a win versus Tigres there, like, impressive. Like, you can see the writing on the wall. Tigres not quite right, giving up the sloppy goal every once in a while, like very uncharacteristic of them over the past few years, what we've seen over the last probably 12 months, that they've giving up a lot of goals that they wouldn't normally give up. And Necaxa, the strong kind of defensive, but the counterattack, like it was all there. Like, it's not like on the surface you look at it like, okay, that kind of makes sense, but erase all that. Like, Necaxa going into that stadium and getting a win like that, like, that's just craziness. So, like, super surprising result right there for me. And just that I think we now are looking at, it's a long ways away, the relegation in the spring, but I mean, looking at it, it's not going to be Necaxa. Like, that's pretty clear. So it's that race, and that what going into next season is going to be mighty interesting, because there's a bunch of teams that are certainly looking like they can be one of those teams to make that drop.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to give credit to Sosa, the manager there at Necaxa. They're extremely well organized, and I don't even think they're that good. I mean, if you look at player for player, I don't think they're that strong. I think Edson Puig. Yeah, he's Puig is probably the best signing of the season. Mm-hmm. But I mean, apart from that, if you look at that team, I mean, what's Espindola, who's like an MLS kind of 31-year-old from MLS. I mean, they've got some players in Necaxa that you think they shouldn't be where they are, and I think you have to give Sosa a lot of credit for what he's achieved there.
Goalkeeper's one of the best goalkeepers in the continent.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're absolutely rubbish. I'm saying compared to other teams, they're performing above where they should be, based on the average skill level of that squad.
Like, one thing that does puzzle me is, how does Nahuel Guzman get called up to the Argentine national team and Barovero doesn't? Nahuel Guzman is just a constant show of arrogance and mistake. He ends up eating his own arrogance, and he has a lot of it to eat.
Damn.
Well, Johnny,
There you go.
that could be a discussion for the Argentinian soccer show. If you ever wanna be part of that, you can join that and talk about it.
I was speaking to my friend Tomas Gubin today, who you can find him on Twitter, but about Tigres, because obviously with Gignac and that, and he came out with a classic phrase. He was like, Tigres over the last couple of games, it's almost like the players are bored. They're bored of the system, they're bored of, like, you know what I mean? Because it's just the same week in, week out, the same 11 from Tuca, they play in the same way, and it's good. There's a lot of positives, but I don't know. I just feel like they get a bit predictable at this stage of the season. You know what I mean? I mean, Necaxa went up there, and they knew exactly what to expect from Tigres. Everybody knows what to expect from Tigres. I don't know. I think Tuca, if there's a fault, sometimes switch it up a bit. You know what I mean? Change things around a little bit.
And now Tigres are going into Seoul against Pumas, where Pumas is undefeated. So I don't expect a win for Tigres soon.
Be interesting to see.
And I'm the leader at predictions.
For now, Johnny. For now. I think I actually won this weekend. I was trying to look at it. I think I only got one.
Me and you were Drew. I think both of us got 7 we saw. 7 out of 9s. I can't believe neither of us won with 7 out of 9.
You two, Tom and Weasel, but Naib as well. All 3 of you won.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah? Fair play.
Something. Yeah, it was that Necaxa game, right? That got us. Finally, that'll be different next week. But let's talk about the standings. Well, we're looking at it right now with Pachuca. I'm sorry, Club Tijuana. There they are. Club Tijuana, Pachuca, Tigres, Guadalajara, Club América, Pumas, Toluca, and Necaxa, and the top 8 as in Liguilla right now. Right now, obviously, Necaxa the big surprise. But anything else surprising you, Tom, about where we're at in Liga, Jornada 14, almost at the end, coming up pretty soon. But in the 8, lots of movements. Obviously, that's going to start happening between the 13th place to the 8th place. But any surprises?
I don't think major surprise. I mean, I know we talked about Necaxa, but there's a long way to. Well, in certain ways, there's a long way to go. I mean, I think there's only 4 games, but you've got 2nd to 14th that are all still not guaranteed a place and all in the fight. So there's just so much to go. So there's so many points to still play for. I was happy to see Atlas, get a last win against Querétaro, because they're giving young Mexican players a chance, which I think is good. It's going almost against the tide of most of the Mexican teams these days. Big win for Monterrey. Obviously Chiapas are having an absolute nightmare at the minute. But yeah, Monterrey are right back in there now on 17 points. So that's a team to look at, and I'll leave Cruz Azul
to Mr. Jason. Before we get into Cruz Azul, Johnny, I'll give you the time now to talk about your Vicente, obviously
not B.
Sorry, this is the centenario of.
We got 100 years to go for that.
100 years. How's it been? And then let's talk about America a little bit. With La Volpe coming in, I do have to say, it's not like we've seen such a huge change, but I was trying to look at to see, they don't seem as, I don't see the reds and the yellow cards as much as we did when it was with Nacho Ambriz. It looks like La Volpe at least has got, that at least is changing, but I still haven't seen the La Volpe hand in this America, where that's going to come from. How's America? How are the America fans, and how are you looking for the Liguilla, and what can you talk about, especially of the win over the weekend?
Honestly, I'm not looking ahead to Liguilla. Honestly, what the club has done with its managers, has me going on a game by game basis, because anything else I'll probably stress out and have a heart attack, because
don't do that.
I'll definitely do that.
You look at this weekend's game. The game was 0-0. And La Volpe subs out Oribe Peralta and sends in Gil Buron. Take out your striker. Granted he wasn't having the best game, and you put in a defender. When it's 0-0, that's the kind of stuff that really, gets my blood boiling. And causes me to get inch closer to that heart attack.
But I thought that was a big reason America won that game. I thought America, when he made decision. I thought America controlled the game much better than when he was playing two strikers. I think they got control of the midfield better, and I thought they looked more dangerous when Boron was on the field than when Peralta was on the field.
I didn't see much danger, in the entire second half from America. I mean, Mickey Arroyo's goal, it was clutch, just like all Mickey Arroyo's goals are. That kid is, that kid loves being the superstar.
I thought it'd be I gave it to him though. I was looking at. I mean, when watching the goal,
it was deflected. It was deflected.
Oh, deflected.
Yeah, it did take a slight deflection, but he had to hit it with a lot of power to get that deflection.
Oh, great job, Mickey.
And yeah, so that kid wants to be a superstar. I love the fact he wants to be a superstar. I hear that he doesn't get along too well with La Volpe, which is a shame. I hear that he might be leaving at the end of the season, which is another shame because we already let go of Benedetto. Now we're going to let go of Arroyo. That's very bad news for America because in return we got a Silvio Romero. Now I'm sorry to at least one person in the chat that disagrees with me, but Benedetto is 10 times better than Silvio Romero.
Benedetto's God top. It's like you're stuck with Benedetto and Tucor Mohamed. Like that was like a dream right there. And if they're gone, they're gone. Get over it.
I thought. I mean, at the end of the day, they got the victory, America, and that was the fundamental thing on that, the Centenario celebration. But you look at that hymn, which is basically copied off Sevilla, and then you look at the mosaic and stuff like that, and it's like it wasn't a great night. I think just about salvaged by that deflected free kick. It wasn't. I didn't. I thought
they got the win.
He got the win. Yeah, I thought Tijuana were pretty good actually, apart from in the last probably third of the game. But let me bring up Miguel Herrera because I thought that he did the rounds. He was going to ESPN. He was going to Fox. He was on the news shows talking about the national team and Osorio, and he's not going to do. Just coach your team. Like if he wants to get that job back, I think he got sent off from the bench for what? For bickering, for arguing with the officials. And it's like if he's going to get that job back, just keep a low profile. You're top of the league. You're doing really well. Everybody knows you.
I would have to disagree because doing the rounds with the media, I know Herrera didn't bring up the national team issue. Those are just questions that journalists are always going to ask, and Herrera's personality is to answer all questions.
Well, that's because he's been tweeting about it.
He doesn't decline any interviews. He never says no to a question. He's a straight up person, which I really respect. I feel I'm the same way. I'm very straight up with what I think, and keeping a low profile that has never been Herrera. Herrera got to the national team by being a high profile manager, and he just has to continue what works for him.
Yeah, but I mean, he didn't get to the World Cup as a player because he was fighting and stuff, and then he had that dream job, managing the national team, having a full process, going from one World Cup to the next one, and he blew it. And it's his own fault he blew it, and it's his personality. And I'm saying that if he wants to get back on that pedestal, he has to calm down. He has to kind of listen. Tijuana playing in the Azteca, that's the highest profile game this season for Club Tijuana, unless they go far in the playoffs. Herrera's under the spotlight. He's been on all the media channels. Just don't get sent off. You know what I mean? Don't get sent off. Don't go after the game blaming the referee. You know what I mean? It doesn't look good. And if you're in the federation, you see Herrera saying that. If I was head of the federation, I'd be like, Herrera's not changed. He's still liable to punch a journalist in an airport.
Yeah, but maybe that's why Herrera is that way. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm siding with Johnny in this one, but that's who Herrera is. He's not going to hide it. And regardless if he's got, I mean, he already had his dream of the national team, and he feels this is the way that he's still in the conversation for him to get it if there's a possibility. So, and there would be, let's say in the next two games, Mexico loses, Piojo would probably be in the conversation of the national team, manager.
And you know what, his personality is his personality. I don't think that's what, has anyone thinking that he's a viable option for the national team. It's the fact that he has his club sitting in first place of the league table. what makes him a viable option for the national team.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's done a really good job, but I just think he's letting himself down. I think he's doing himself a lot of damage by, by getting sent off and stuff and going. For me, I'm not saying he has to change his personality. I agree with you, Johnny. I think he's a really straight up guy, and I like that. He's a good person. It's exciting to have someone like him around, but just like taper it off a little bit. Just those extremes. Like, you don't need to do it.
Well, there it is. Let's go into Chivas. Tom, Almeida, again, in the talks and especially, in the news of what he's doing with Chivas. And I almost kind of look at the money that was thrown out there, and it looks like Almeida isn't going to cut and be like, all right, well, I need to put in Gallito, I need to put in Pulido, I need to put in Gullit. It's like, it's who's playing well at the moment. And that's something that a lot of coaches don't do, especially when there's a lot of money thrown around and stars are there. But Tom, what can you tell us? In Chivas, the fourth position, having great, at least a great season in the standards of Chivas in the last, 2 years at least. But looking forward in this Liguilla with Chivas being there.
Yeah, I mean, one win away, I think now. They're on the brink, like America is as well. It's coming together. It's coming together really well this season for him. Pulido still, didn't play at the weekend. I thought it was a comfortable win against Puebla, to be honest. And Puebla have been doing pretty well recently. I mean, I think we saw the key thing with, Gallito and Peña, and even Chofis, who was left out as well, Nestor Calderon. It's competition for places. I mean, I think that's what Chivas have got this season. They've not had for a long time. Almeida's got the luxury of being able to put very good players on the bench because they're in bad form. And I think that's the difference between this season and probably last season and 3 years ago with Chivas. I think that's the massive difference, that Almeida has some resources to work with. The other thing with this game, Alustiza, I don't know, another one. Getting sent off, and maybe it shouldn't have been sent off, but then making signs that the ref was bought off and it was rigged, and mouthing those words to Almeida as well. I mean, it just gives a terrible image to the league. I mean, I don't know what you guys thought, but I just thought it just gives a bad image. We had
but it's something to think about. I'm not saying Alustiza is correct, but it is something to think about.
Well, yeah. I just think if you do stuff like that, you need evidence. You need to come up with some evidence, and if you can do that, then great. Nice one. Make a case for it. But I don't know. It just doesn't look good. It just didn't look good, that. But yeah, I thought Chivas in general, it's all looking really good, and I'm excited to see him in the playoffs. I think it's going to be a lot of fun with Chivas and America around, and maybe a repeat of the round.
Well, they're already heading, towards each other in the cup.
Yeah.
For a semifinal clash in the cup.
There it is, an interesting drama opening up. Let's talk about what's happening in Week 14 in the games where a lot of decisions, especially with Liguilla talking, and that we're at on Friday, Tijuana's Chiapas, Saturday, Cruz Azul Puebla, Querétaro América, León Monarcas, Monterrey Toluca, Necaxa Veracruz. And on Sunday, Pumas Tigres, Guadalajara Pachuca, Santos, and Atlas. If you had to pick, I think there's several. I mean, looking at this jornada from before, if you look at it, there's not that many teams that are like, all right, the top four playing each other or anything interesting with Tigres or Pachuca. But we're starting to see the Liguilla take place. Guadalajara Pachuca, I think that's an interesting game. Necaxa Veracruz, just to see how Necaxa. Yeah, Pumas Tigres. So it looks like what do they call it? The Clásico, the college classic, Pumas Tigres. León Monarcas. Universitario. So it looks like they're almost all of the teams except for maybe, sorry, Jason, Cruz Azul Puebla, or a Santos Atlas. But other than that, América Querétaro. But to you, Jason, what's the team? What's the match to watch this weekend?
Certainly, those Sunday fixtures of Pumas Tigres, Chivas Pachuca are probably the most high profile, interesting matches. But I think there's somebody said for Monterrey Toluca on Saturday with both teams kind of on the fringe, looking to lock down a place. It could be an important game. One of them gets a win. It could be important going forward. So I think that could be the one that kind of swings something the most this weekend.
And do you see Cruz Azul trying to make it into that top 8?
They're going to try, I guess.
16 points. 16 points. Necaxa at 19.
No, they're not.
Basically, elimination game, no? Cruz Azul Puebla.
Yeah,
it is because the schedule's tough for Cruz Azul down the stretch. I believe they have Pachuca still. I believe they have Chivas still. There's losses for Cruz Azul coming. So, I mean, they definitely need to win this weekend. I don't see them making it in the top 8.
I think, Tijuana and Pumas both playing home games. I believe they're both perfect. I know for sure Tijuana is perfect at home. Pretty sure Pumas is perfect at home. So that's going to be very interesting to watch. Ricardo Lavolpe, 2 very ugly wins at home. Couldn't win on the road last time. So, I don't have faith in Lavolpe. But I have hope, not faith.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see where it kind of goes. Obviously, the Liga Mx is almost wrapping up, but interesting games. And then we see that. Anybody, I always like to ask this question 4 or 5 liguillas out. Anybody as a clear winner that you can see if you had to pick before everyone starts coming in the liguilla? And it looks. I mean, Pachuca's up there, and I kind of want to see Xolos. Looking at Piojo.
My candidate is Tijuana. Because they just win at home and they scrap out results on the road. Sure, they've lost twice on the road this season, but they've gotten some really tough draws and some pretty tough wins on the road, and then they're just handling their business at home. That's what championship teams do.
All right, Tom and Jason.
I don't think there's any team outside of. Yeah, I don't think there's any team outside of Pachuca that I really trust to make a deep run, because I mean they were there last year. They've been consistent this year. I mean, they're going to be a tough out. Tijuana, there's still something about them that we'll see when they get to the Liguilla how it works out. But Johnny makes a good point with that home record. That makes a big difference. So you could also say the same thing about Pumas. The Pumas that are going to go, they're going to give everyone a tough contest at home. So you could see them making a run as well.
Yeah.
Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Pachuca, I've said Tigres before the start of the season, so I think they'll come back. But yeah, there's no unbeatable team in this league. I mean, look at Leon as well. I mean, still got work to do to get in the playoffs. I know everyone's going, the momentum, and yeah, they're looking good, but they're not there yet.
Leon hasn't lost. Leon hasn't lost a
mean,
single game since our Bielsa Jr. came in. And Torrente
Bielsa Jr. But the other one, the wild card, is Monterrey. I mean, I still really believe that player for player, Monterrey are up there with Tigres as the best in the league. If they can get it together, then they can beat any other team in this league on the day. Quick point about Monterrey's game last weekend. Talking about positive things in the Mexican national team. Cesar Montes, I thought he was exceptional in that game against Chiapas. Not just because he scored the goal, but he scored the goal from the set piece. 5 minutes later, he saves the goal with a tackle. I thought he outshone Basanta during the game. And then the pass for Funes Mori's goal, the last goal, the fourth, was unbelievable. And I just thought, we know about Cesar Montes, we know he's a good player, but I just thought in that performance against Chiapas, he showed a bit of everything that he's got, you know what I mean? He's a good defender, he's good with the ball and at passing, and he's also a threat from set pieces, so to get excited about Cesar Montes.
Don't sell him off to Europe just yet. Let us enjoy him for a bit.
All right. Well, we did ask for you guys to ask questions on the chat. Sorry, go ahead, Johnny.
I will admit that this is more from the hopeful side, but America still has a shot at the treble. Champions League, Cup, and League. Champions League, Cup, and League in 2016. They already have Champions League. They can get that. If they win the Cup, they would become the most winningest team in the Cup with 6. And they still have a shot at the league. It'd be no other team in Mexico has ever won treble.
Why don't you just make it to the make it 4 with the December game in the Club World Cup, Johnny? I mean,
Why not?
Let's go all the way.
4 trophies in a year. Yeah.
Why
like
not? Perfect. All right. We ask you guys on the chat some questions. The guy with name 23 says, "Hey, we so why are they on trash?" I don't think they're trash right now.
Because they got rid of Gulli.
Yeah, I don't think they're trash right now. They haven't lost a game since Torrentes come in. They've beaten Tigres. They've beaten Tigres well. They've beaten America. They los golearon. I think their next games are Puebla, Monarcas, which I think there's going to be wins there, and Cruz Azul. So get ready for another win there.
They lost León lost against their second division rivals, Tijuana.
Yeah, well, yeah. This is before Torrentes came in. So I expect them. Watch out. I can see León getting in that 8-7 spot, and then we've seen them win the championship like that before. I think their hardest game will be against Chivas in the week before. So that's going to be an interesting game. What other questions? How many more red cards will America get this season, Johnny?
At least, how many games? 4 left? So I'm saying at least 3.
3, there you go. Did America provide a podóloga for La Volpe, Tom?
No comment.
No comment there. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, those are all the questions. Chivas has beaten. Okay, we want to put Jose Munoz said that Chivas has beaten bad teams. He's been trying to say it for a long time. He's saying Chivas has beaten bad teams.
That's what good teams do. Good teams beat bad teams.
I tend to agree. What has Chivas done? That like is really, really impressive. Have they beat a Tigres? Have they beat a Pachuca?
They beat America, right?
They beat an Ambriz-led America, so that's an asterisk.
Clásico Nacional.
They beat an Ambriz-led America. That's an asterisk.
We'll see. It's definitely sparking. All right, guys. Well, that's enough. That's our time there at the Mexican Sock Show. It's already been an hour. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Jason. And thank you, Johnny. Remember, we'll be back every Monday. Sometimes last Monday we got caught up with some stuff before the game, but normally we're here every Monday. And then it's coming up in November. We'll have some great news for you guys, especially with Columbus games coming up and some soccer show, inviting some guests to obviously talk about the U.S. game and all of that's been happening. But you can follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. Give us a like, share all of the content that we do, and we definitely really appreciate it. Saying hi to Mr. Cesar, who's on vacation, and Naib, who couldn't jump on because he had some writing to do. But guys, we'll give it to Mr. Jason to close us off. Jason? Close off.
Rap, Jason. Give us a rap.
Okay, well, a lot of good games to watch this weekend, and thanks for joining us. And it was real. So, yeah, take it easy.
Keep it real. Keep it real, yo.
Word to your mother. Word to your mother.